Okay. Λοιπόν, καλημέρα. Πρώτα απ' όλα θα ήθελα να ευχαριστήσω το φεστιβάλ για την πρόσκληση και όπως είπε η Παυλίνα, αυτή η εκδήλωση θα είναι στα αγγλικά, αλλά έχουμε ακουστικά, όποιος χρειάζεται ακουστικά τα έχουμε εκεί. So we will be speaking in English. I don't know, Effie, if you want to do this in Greek, it's fine. You would prefer that? Yeah? Yeah, okay. So it will be part in English, part in Greek, like all the other sessions that have foreign participants. I always say that I find English to be a useful lingua franca, but of course it's not that for everyone and not in all parts of the world. So let's see how we get on with this. And I'm Alexandra Búchler. I'm the Director of Literature Across Frontiers. My organization has been cooperating with the festival. This is the second year, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be here and to be able to bring writers. Last year we had two poets from Wales, which is where we are based. And Richard's presence is supported by the Arts Council of Wales, and I would like to thank them for that. Now, if we could have quiet at the back, I feel like a teacher. Now, we will start with an introduction of the speakers, and then one of them will read, she said it's not a statement, but it's like a performance. So we will start with that. But first of all, I will do a brief introduction and or maybe not so brief because everyone is a heavyweight. You know, we have Effie Giannopούλου, who I would refer to as heavyweight translator. She translates from French, Spanish, and English into Greek. She holds a degree in philosophy, pedagogy, and psychology from the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens, and an MA in gender, society, and politics from Pantheon University. She has translated more than 70 books, including fiction, theater, and works in the humanities and social sciences. There are too many authors she has translated, so I'll just name a few. She has translated Carlos Fuentes, Pierre Bourdieu, Federico Garcia Lorca, Samantha Schweblin, a woman author, Susan Sontag, another woman author, Théophile Gautier, and Tennessee Williams. It's quite a remarkable lineup. Alongside her work as translator, she has worked extensively as an editor and proofreader, collaborating with major public and private cultural institutions in Greece. She also contributes regularly to newspapers and literary magazines, and she will speak about her, not only, but she will speak about her most recent translation of Les Guerrières, I hope I'm pronouncing it properly, by Monique Wittig, and you have a dedicated session on that book. Can you just say when it is so that everybody knows? Microphone.
Ωραία. The session about Les Guerrières, guerrillas στα ελληνικά, by Monique Wittig is this afternoon at 7 p.m. At Μεγάλο Αρσενάλι 2. Oh, here. Okay. This is.
Thank you. Richard Γκουίν. Richard Γκουίν is a Welsh author, and a poet, translator, and he also was, until quite recently, professor of creative writing at Cardiff University. He studied social anthropology at the London School of Economics and spent several years in London. Later, he actually spent a decade traveling around the Mediterranean, during which time he lived in Crete for 2.5 years, is that right? And specifically here in Chania. So it's a really interesting return for him. And he keeps telling me, 45 years ago, this was different, and this was like this, and so on. So it's quite an interesting visit for him. He chronicled these travels in his memoir, The Vagabond's Breakfast, which won the Wales Book of the Year for non-fiction in 2012. His first novel, which is set in Barcelona, and it's called The Color of a Dog Running Away, was translated into many languages, but he won't be talking about being translated. He will be talking about being a translator, because he translates from Spanish. He has translated a number of books, mainly by male authors. And I thought it would be interesting to have him in this debate. Of course, gender, and that's the topic of this translation, and gender topic of this discussion, is sometimes perceived as exclusively relating to feminism. It isn't. We really need to talk about it in broader terms. His other novels include Deep Hanging Out, which is actually set in Crete, and The Blue Tent. He has several collections of poems, and the latest one is Stowaway, a Levantine adventure. And he will maybe refer to that as well, but mainly he will be talking about his translations of Latin American poetry. He put together a very substantial anthology. Maybe you can show it, Richard. It's called The Other Tiger, Recent Poetry from Latin America. And he also wrote another book chronicling his travels around Latin America, but South America, called Ambassador of Nowhere. And that has been translated into Spanish and published recently. He received the Valle Inclán Premio Valle Inclán, which is the major translation award for translation from Spanish into English, last year, for Invisible Dog, published by Carcanet, which is his translation of the Mexican poet Fabio Marabito. So there's quite a lot to say about each of them. And then we have, last but not least, Christiana Lambrinidi, who was born in Athens, but her life has been influenced, as I heard yesterday in the very interesting session right here, has been influenced very much by her Smyrna heritage, the heritage of her family. And she studied in the States at Wellesley College and Brown University, where she received an MFA in theater arts. She is a playwright, director, independent scholar, editor, and human rights activist. She was the only Greek woman playwright to be writer in residence at Harvard University, where she developed her methodology on conflict resolution through creative writing and theater. Her plays, produced in Europe, US, Canada, and Australia, were published by Aparsis Editions. Her feminist work includes Landscapes of Empowerment, Barbie's Revenge. I hope I'm pronouncing it as you intended, with the A in the middle, Essays on Women's Writing, and Lesbian Blues. She devised and taught her first feminist translation seminar, HAU, where a paradigm of translation specialized in women's writing was honed. And it will be interesting to maybe hear about that as well. And you have this book called Smyrne, which is published by Estia, is that right? And it's called Smyrne ton Polon και τον όλων. And you spoke about that yesterday. So here we are. We are supposed to be talking about gender and translation. It's a very broad topic, and we would like to start maybe by looking at the issues of representation, of translation flows, of gatekeeping, who selects the translations to be translated, who accepts them, and how they are received in the target market, if I should use that word. I myself am a translator. I translate between my native Czech and English, and I'm also involved in the organization that promotes Welsh writing abroad and provides grants for its translation. So I look at these issues also from that point of view. What are the mechanics of that kind of ecosystem of translation, and why certain works are chosen by so many publishers and others are left behind, and it's up to translators to advocate for them and bring them to the attention of publishers. So there's a lot of questions we could address, but I would like to start with actually a question that Effie Giannopoulou formulated when we were discussing how to go about making this session interesting. But I will ask this question after Christiana gives us her performance. So Christiana, over to you. And Christiana wants to address the topic of silencing. Is that right? Yeah.
Stage for this one. So there is a title, and the title is Exile, Translate. Do the skies, uranos, have a shape? Open or closed? Is it one or is it many? Is it born or is it unborn and eternal? Aeonios. Questions of existence, of comprehending the universe. In here, we operate under the skies of letters, our own universe, meaning, symbol, and myth, of space abandoned in between the historical languages we speak and unspeak. We hunt down meaning and then, listen. A sound awakened by a sound stentorian, neither Welsh, a prince of apple trees, nor Hellenic. Ποιος επιτρέπεται να μεταφράζει, τι? 6 women translators, like the digits of a hand, human or urakotangan, the writing inner, an invisible manuscript of 12 hands in code. Cells in code are cells in translation. Gender roams, likes to roam. Gender obsessively marks skin and organ. Traces of you into me into you. Where have we gone? Where are we? When gender is a leader of ceremonies, underworld appears because body transforms, because body is transliterated. A journey of monsters proves friendly. Like the Medusa on a sash, the bronze Athena from Piraeus wears across her chest. Either to or from is a mythical journey. Translator, writer, reader. A rhapsody of a different sort, terrifying, soul-bound, unrecognizable, ghosts and living. A mirror falls down, enormous, or smashed into pieces. All three, writer, reader, translator, look for themselves in the mirror, not to look at the mirror, to find. What is a text? A mirror. That is a text, a mirror, hanging from above, like a Damoclean sword, or emerging from underneath, like Persephone or Orpheus. On earth or below, words engage, disengage, devising time. A being of the soul, that is time. Dust to discourse. After 24 years, the feminist translation annals appear in my mouth before you. Dusty, exhausted, to be read and analyzed. Ποιος ακούει? Who listens? Barbie's Revenge, essays on a women's writing. Woman Warrior, the memoirs of a girlhood among ghosts, by Maxine Hong Kingston, a Chinese writer, an American one. 2 books, 2 volumes, published in 2002. Remain in silence, but they're read in secret, passed on from woman to woman like a secret or an oath. 24 years. The methodology produced the way and disappeared, never mentioned or discussed. Why?
Thank you for the thought-provoking text. You prepared this, you wrote this just now before the session. Yeah, for the, well, maybe the audience will want to comment on it later. And I think I'll proceed to, maybe I won't start with the question I mentioned earlier. I think what we should talk about first, and this would be a question for all three of you, about the feminization, as we refer to it, of this field. In Britain, for example, there has been a very distinct movement to bring more female authors in translation by female translators to readers. And it has been very successful. It has really changed the field because of the various campaigns, because of awards, prizes, and so on. And now I would say it's the field of translation, translated literature, and we all know that Britain and the Anglophone world doesn't translate as much as other parts of the world, has really changed significantly. And there are some literatures that really produce a lot of authors, female authors, who are translated. Effie, would you like to comment on this? You brought up the example of Latin American fiction, which is absolutely right, but also there is, for instance, Japanese writing, where women really, rule the rules, so to speak.
Well, I will try to speak in English, as I would like Rítsarnd and you have to understand me, so you would have to suffer my mediocre English. And I will start with something, with an article I've read in the print edition of El País before web surfing in 1994, written by Mario Vargas Llosa. The title of the article was La cultura en el gineceo, Culture in the Women's Quarters. And it's something I've been remembering all this year, because there was a kind of seeing the future of this feminization of the literary field. So I will read you at first what Mario Vargas Llosa wrote in 1994. If the culture of the future, as everything suggests, is destined to become predominantly feminine because it will be shaped primarily by and for women, it will increasingly reflect human experience from that perspective. This will undoubtedly bring about an iconoclastic revolution, a genuine upheaval and reordering of the values, myths, images, desires, and fantasies that have been forged in literature and philosophy, the visual arts and history, all shaped through the male condition. They will gradually be replaced by others that are radically different. He wrote this article a little bit sexist, although, as his image about the internal feminine and all of this was a little bit cringe. And because he observed that women were steadily becoming more numerous in the arts and the humanities, mostly in US universities. 32 years later, this prediction seems in part that have come true. My recent experience of big book fairs or festivals, mostly, rights market, is that I would say that 80% women and 20% men working in the publishing industry. So we see that women are editors, they are collection directors, they are rights sellers, rights buyers. So we have a little bit of change in the field. Although women are becoming increasingly visible in the other book-related profession, especially in those that often remain behind the scenes, first as editors and copy editors, translators, and gradually among published authors also. All this has changed also the topics that are, we could say, in trend in literature. And there is a gradually bigger interest to topics that are from women life, women experience. And so in Latin America, where also Mario Vargas Llosa came from, we have many writers, women writers, that are the most exported fiction writers, not poets, or as I can understand from Rítsard's topics, like Samantha Schweblin, Mariana Enriquez, Fernanda Trias, Selva Almada, Cristina Rivera Garza, Claudia Piñeiro, Fernanda Melchor, Gabriela Cabezón Cámaras, some examples of women that are in the big international prizes list. Well, two things stand out from this. First, this generation of women writers has genuinely taken over from the great Latin American boom. They have come to be recognized not simply as outstanding individual authors, but as a literary movement of broader significance. They are connected in the book market. Second, the growing prominence of women writers has gone hand in hand with a profound shift in literary perspective. Different experiences have moved to the center, while established myths, hierarchies, and ways of seeing have begun to be questioned. And also, I would say, the gender issue cannot be reduced to the male-female binary. We have, at the same time, this transformation in broader terms recognizes the many other identities that are claiming their place within literature. Works that explore gay, lesbian, or trans experience, among others. So, this this from me for this feminization of the field.
Thank you. Rítsarnd, would you like to respond to this question, how you of the perceived feminization of the field of literary translation, and you would be doing that from the point of view of someone who has actually translated quite a few male authors. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that and about the selections you have made also for the anthology? Yeah. Microphone. Yeah. Thank you.
I was very interested to hear. Yeah? No. The thing's on, but it's not working. Hi. Yeah, it's red, it's not green. Effie, thank you, because you're addressing exactly the topic that I was going to speak about. But I'm going to bring some statistics to the party, because it's an area that I've been especially interested in. 5 years ago, I was invited to judge the Premio Valle-Inclán, which is the major award for translation from Spanish to English in the UK. And the first thing that happened was I received a box of books, about 50 books, about 32 of them written by women and 18 by men. Which didn't surprise me, because this has been a kind of evolution over the years since the period known as El Boom in Latin America, when writers such as Vargas Llosa, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Julio Cortázar, and Carlos Fuentes kind of took the literary world by storm in a certain sense, and became household names in, well, some houses at least. However, at the same time that these writers were writing, there were writers such as, and I wonder how many people know these names, Clarice Lispector, Sara Gallardo, Elena Garro, Silvina Ocampo, none of whom received any of the attention of their male counterparts at the time, but who have since become very well recognized as equals in many senses of the male writers of the time, in their significance, certainly. And I'm wondering what caused this shift in the gender imbalance from being predominantly male-directed to something. Who was motivating it? Who was calling for it? And was it the readership? Was it the publishers being more predisposed to publishing women writers? I think it's a combination of factors, which maybe we can discuss. But I just want to give you some statistics first, because when I published this book, I did it without any real thought as to how many male writers, how many female writers. I just wanted to include the best poems that I could find, which is fairly naive. But I ended up with 61 male writers and 36 female writers. And of the many reviews that the book received, only one review pointed out this gender imbalance, which I thought was, I got away quite lightly with that. But then, before coming to this conference, I had a look through my library and looked at the books in my house in Spain of the anthologies that I had used to compose my anthology, the ones that I'd referred to. And so listen to these. The FSG, these are all 20th century anthologies, or recent, late 20th century anthologies. The FSG anthology of 20th century Latin American poetry, male 55, female 19. Contemporary Chilean poetry, male 66, female 14. Puertas Abiertas, contemporary Central American poetry, edited by Sergio Ramirez, who should know better, male 50, female 17. Anthology of Argentine poetry, edited by Jorge Fondebrider, male 37, female 14. Get this one. Poetas Colombianas, contemporary poets of Colombia, male 18, female 2. I have a particular interest in Colombian poetry as well, so that's very disappointing. Cuban poetry, male 44, female 12. Ecuador, Tapestry of the Sun, poets born between 1931 and 1987, male 13, female 5. So the other tiger doesn't come out too badly in this regard. And I imagine if I were doing it now, with the younger female poets that I'm aware of writing, the balance would be different. And I'm just throwing this as an open question as to what is driving the change, the very welcome change as I see it. And as you mentioned, the number of translators translating are predominantly female also. And incidentally, your reference to me translating male poets is entirely accurate, but I'm just finishing up a large collection of the work of Piedad Bonet, Colombian poet, who won last year's Premio Sofia Reina, which is a very established prize, yeah. So those are some of my thoughts. I could go on, but I think we should spread it around.
Okay, what stood out for me, and I have actually put together quite a few anthologies of mainly short stories, not so much poetry, but I have also translated poetry and novels. And when I look back, the choices I made, because I only translated authors I chose myself and convinced the publishers to take them up. The choices I made were mainly guided by, and this is now I'm talking about translation from English into Czech. So we're talking about translation for quite a small market, which is very literary or used to be literary, now maybe not so much. But I wanted to kind of fill gaps. I wanted to really translate something that I thought was missing, and the readers should have access to it. And this included a few male authors who are major names, but also very many female authors. And I worked closely with a feminist publishing house in Prague. And it was very enjoyable. I really had a great time doing that.